replaced Kai Havertz and Mateo Kovacic. Notably, there's no Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang here with Chelsea today, who came on as a substitute and was substituted on Thursday. And Manchester City now, it's theirs to lose this third round FA Cup tie. Guardiola will be emphasising, I'm sure, no complacency, doing what you were doing in the last 20 minutes of the half, and the margin could be widened.
Interesting to see who's going to play up top for Chelsea.
Or maybe he will.
It looks as though he's the furthest forward at the moment.
Yeah, he's a player who's a goal scorer in the Norwegian season. He's scored 22 in all competitions, often operating as a wide attacker as well as a central striker. We'll see. There's Julian Alvarez, who's definitely through the middle for Manchester City. We've got through the middle of Chelsea too often for Graham Potter's liking. So the double change at the start of the second half. Now let Stuart sort out who's doing what and where.
Just interested to see where Jorginho and Zakaria are playing in that midfield. So Conor Gallagher might be playing further to the right. They're still playing with the two players in behind the centre forward, who is Fofana. You see Conor Gallagher much wider in this second half, at the start of the second half.
Chelsea have never had a Fofana before in their long history. Now they've got two. Having signed earlier this season Wesley from Leicester, centre-back. He's on their injury list as well. So it's a challenge for the new manager who worked wonders at Brighton. Prior to that at Swansea, and then in Scandinavian football. Did play a few Premier League games, Graham Potter. Just a handful at Southampton.
It looks as though he's gone to a back three. Conor Gallagher's going to play as the right wing-back. Hall is going to play as the left wing-back. Chalobah will just tuck in alongside the other two centre-backs.
Which is where Chalobah has been playing quite a lot in recent times, certainly before the World Cup.
Humphries has just got to be a bit careful. He keeps being dragged into central midfield positions by the player he's marking. In the space in behind him, Foden tried to make the run in behind him on that occasion.
Here's Laporte.
Humphries has moved from the right-sided centre-back to the left-sided centre-back of that three.
It's in Manchester City's DNA to not just manage this through and get across the line, but to keep pushing, keep probing. They love having the ball in the attacking third. Not always to purpose of scoring a goal, but the premise that part of the pitch, the opposition are very unlikely to hurt you at the other end. Here's Rodri.
We did the cup final together when they played against Watford, and there was no let-up that day.
No mercy. There's the one FA Cup they've won under Pep Guardiola by a joint record score, 6-0. Offside. It did look as though Gomez had gone a bit too early. Aaron Can is a veteran of World Cup final assistant back in 2010 in South Africa under Howard Webb, who is now in charge of the referees in the Premier League setup, top flight.
You saw as Conor Gallagher received the ball, he is playing as a right wing-back.
He's the latest. A few given that job, including Raheem Sterling. Graham Potter was quick to point out that he didn't have many defensive duties when he was lined up there. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a midfield player. I was talking to him on Thursday evening after the game. He said, I played right wing back, but I really am a midfield player. So it's the Reece James syndrome. They're so much better when he plays. He's got a bit of the devil in the soul, which this Chelsea collectively haven't quite got. I put it the other day, Stuart, they've just lost their snarl a bit. You know, they were ultra competitive, serial winners. And of course that may come again, but it's not just a change of manager, the change of ownership. It's obviously the club to the foundations, really. So much achieved under Roman Abramovich. Circumstances at a level couldn't continue. Thiago Silva's still continuing. He's been probably Chelsea's best player this season at the age of 38.
I saw him against Nottingham Forest. Some of his passing out from the back in the first half was exceptional. He's obviously a very good defender. Doesn't seem to have lost too much of his athleticism over the years. Still reads the game brilliantly.
He played the first game after Christmas against Bournemouth, virtually limping the whole game, and still carried the cigar. They could do with him out there now. Here's Alvarez. Mahrez with licence to explore, looking for Palmer. Seen out responsibly by Denis Zakaria. From here from Juventus, obviously with Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's had a run of starting the games. He's, I think, seen as a stabilising influence to be brought on for the second half in difficult circumstances, where Chelsea have obviously got a bit of pride to play for, as well as trying to find a page from the long history of FA Cup comebacks, and stranger things have happened down the years. But looking a very tall order here, and they haven't got a tall enough player, Conor Gallagher, to keep that in.
I don't think Koulibaly has been at his best for Chelsea. I saw a lot of him when he was absolutely magnificent for Napoli over many seasons. There was talk of him moving maybe 3 years earlier to some of the Premier League clubs.
He played here actually for Napoli against Manchester City.
Very good understanding with Albiol, who was older of the two centre-backs, playing for Villarreal.
Fofana trying to get involved. The future's a bit cloudy for Jorginho at Chelsea as well. A great signing. The team is playing his tempo. He is the man with the metaphorical baton leading the orchestra. Not today. Rodri. Foden. Walker. Before Foden again, now Bernardo Silva. Laporte. Well, there's plenty of left-footers out there for Manchester City.
Yeah, it's surprising that Riyad Mahrez has just changed his position in this second half. He's been playing further infield. Now he's almost coming to a left-back position here.
All he's done to Chelsea, he's probably earned the right to play where he wants. I'm sure that's not the case. Rodri. Nibble at him from Mount, to nibble at the ball. Laporte. Bernardo Silva. Here's Mount. Maybe a chance to get further forward, and he and Rodri, that's the legacy of what happened a minute or so ago.
That should probably be a yellow card for Rodri. Yeah, and he's got one. He knew exactly what he was doing there, and he saw that Mount was going to switch the play out to the left-hand side. just has a little clip at his heels.
Yellow cards, incidentally, are competition specific. Won't have any impact on his tariff in the Premier League, but if he gets one in the next round of the FA Cup, it will. For the movement of Mount to England internationals, combining nicely. It's better from Chelsea, and a sight really of Stefan Ortega in action.
Yeah, just gets a slight block in it here. Gomez just pulls off his calf. Ortega probably gets a fingertip to it and pushes that a little bit wider,
just to be on the safe side. Chelsea corner. Havertz to aim for. Gallagher. And across by Ziyech. Alvarez helping out. Somehow stayed in play. We'll deal with it. Always easy to play the second half when you're 3-0 up. It's a lot easier, I suppose, than playing a second half when you're 3-0 down. There'll be some players who'd be thinking, well, let's just make sure of this, keep the clean sheet going, maybe not quite make the run. Kyle Walker's not one of those, by the way. He's often running again. But there'll be others who think, well, come on, we've got them down on the canvas now. We can really apply the knockout blows.
Depends how the opposition, the team that are 3-0 down, approach the game. If they carry on sitting deep and not really pressing the ball, Man City might just keep it, reserve some of their energy.
There's the wandering Mahrez. Walker playing like somebody who hasn't had quite enough football this season. So he had to work really hard to convince Gareth Southgate to take him to the World Cup and then to play him in the World Cup. I think that France was a likely opponent, and Mbappe, his best defensive weapon of pace. And you mentioned it right at the start. Manchester City's best weapon of pace is Kyle Walker still.
The greatest thing about Kyle Walker, as we've seen with England, as we've seen with Man City, he can play as a right back, a right wing back, or as a right-sided centre-half. Rodri had to be careful there. He didn't want to make that foul, did he?
He'd have been off.
One way to get Chelsea back into the game, to go down to 10 men.
No change in the scoreline in the first 10 or 11 minutes of the second half. Hall. Fofana, Chelsea fans will be grateful to have a sighting of him. So I know his name in Norwegian football. I'd say that's perhaps not always the path to the top level of English football, but you think of Mulder and you think of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who didn't do too badly. In fact, he's got 3 caps for the Ivory Coast. Tells you that he's got, yeah, Rodri's coming off. Cancelo. Gomez is going with Rodri. Cancelo, pretty decent replacements. Again, we're talking about players who are at the World Cup. Coming on. Cancelo of Portugal. And Calvin Phillips of England, who still hasn't started a game for Manchester City. He got 40 minutes of the League Cup game here in November, proving his credentials, I think, for the World Cup, a bit like Walker had to do.
It was a massive part of England's European Championship.
His last start, incidentally, Stuart, in any football club or country, was England against Hungary in the Nations League in June. And of course, he had to endure the criticism of his manager, who said he was basically too fat. He's gone back a little bit on that, Pep Guardiola, as if he'd made his point, and having had the stick, came back with the carrot. I would like to see with a home crowd, with the Chelsea fans would, but Erling Haaland has only played once against Chelsea. That was on Thursday, and he didn't score. Had a couple of semi-chances. Jack Grealish admitted afterwards in setting up the goal for Riyad Mahrez, the only goal of the evening, he was looking for Erling Haaland.
And he's usually in the right place at the right time.
Zamuka trying to have a little private game out there, I think, in the circumstances. And that's Chalobah. Started the last 7 games before the World Cup break. His first start since. He's got a new long-term deal to 2028, signed at the back end of last year. This is the problem for Graham Potter. New pre-season to get to know the players. Obviously, he's managed against them. There's going to be a double Chelsea switch as there was at half-time. Now going to call on Cesar Azpilicueta to try and make sure there aren't too many more disasters. The stalwart from Spain is approaching 500 appearances for the club. It's the most by a non-English player to Chelsea. Good time to take Bashir Humphries on. He hasn't been exposed too much. His positionally been pretty spot on.
He hasn't done anything wrong on the ball. One or two occasions he got sucked towards the ball and players run into the space behind him. Early chance for Cole Palmer. He got sucked into midfield and Cole Palmer ran through the area he was supposed to be defending. But it's been a fairly sound debut for Humphries.
Mahrez. Who's he looking for? Kyle Walker, who's got inside Humphries then, he recovered. Mahrez across to Cancelo. Putting it about again.
He's going to get the yellow card.
I think it's a fault on the right side, but it is still a fault.
It's a great bit of skill, just lifts it over him. He knew what he was doing, he left his right leg there. He wanted to win the ball off the first touch and he was late. It's a poor challenge, he's got to slow himself down.
He's averaging, well, in terms of numbers, think how short his career has been at the top level. Azpilicueta is on for Jorginho. Here's another look at Mari Hutchinson, who made his debut. He's on for Ziyech. Made his debut against Manchester City on Thursday. Taken by Foden. Touched by Koulibaly. Here's Bernardo Silva. It's almost at the state where if you said, well, it's 3-0 now, let's call it off. It's Chelsea well, they're doing their best to try and get a foothold into it, but I think the main consideration when they came out for the second half was damage limitation. We'll see, there's still plenty of time. This is the FA Cup. Capacity for change, capacity for surprise.
We saw that with Coventry yesterday, didn't we? They were 4-1 down to Wrexham. They had a player sent off and nearly got back into the game. They had a chance to equalise in added on time. Not a very happy Chelsea bench there. Azpilicueta's come on to the right wing-back position, allowing Conor Gallagher to go infield and play in his normal central position. Here he is on the ball.
He's done very well on the ball on that occasion. Out to Hall. Gallagher again. He certainly won't hide. He won't probably be too adept at protecting himself. He has had a sending off this season for a second yellow card.
Hutchinson is playing in the position that Ziyech was playing in. Sort of narrow, put it inside right.
He's got Jamaican background. He comes not too far away from the Chelsea training ground in Surrey in the home counties, southwest of London. And he was with Arsenal until the end of last season. He's been on, I think he got on the pitch, but he was certainly on an Arsenal team sheet or two. Fafana using his strength, expensive Cancelo, and his Hutchinson comes out to Zakaria, challenged by Foden. Gallagher hit it with his left foot. Hall might. Gallagher might hit it with his right foot, but he's twisted back into trouble. And Mahrez gets Alvarez on the run.
He didn't fancy taking on the defender Koulibaly on that occasion. Koulibaly is an excellent 1v1 defender.
And we've got Bernardo Silva, a position he's played a lot on the right-hand side, inverted wing position, as Mahrez is. Which doesn't make it a strategy of design for Erling Haaland's aerial ability. Too many crosses have been coming in. He has scored some headers. He's very proud of his head work because he had to work really hard at it. It wasn't something that came naturally to his game. Anyway, I can't help just mentioning him, even though he's on the bench today. He has taken this English season by storm.
Walker's almost playing as an outside right now, and Mahrez has gone infield. Bernardo Silva is joining in on that right-hand side.
He does like a tweak or two, Pep Guardiola. Mostly, very successfully, occasionally, like the Champions League final, where even I think when the team sheets were handed in, those who know the game very well, like Stuart Robson, would have said, not quite sure about that. Didn't pan out the way Pep Guardiola and Manchester City wanted in that enormous game, the most enormous game between these two clubs, of course. Akanji was an international teammate of Zakaria, of Switzerland. There's Cancelo. And from Palmer to Jean Cancelo again, he put it behind Palmer, and it's given back. Zakaria to Manchester City and Cancelo in particular. Bernardo Silva. Mahrez. The nomadic Mahrez of the second half.
He's a joy to watch when he's on form, Riyad Mahrez. It can be frustrating for fans and other players when he's not playing well, but when he's on form, he is an outstanding player.
You tend to forget, with all he's done for Manchester City, what he did for Leicester. He and Jamie Vardy, the spear and N'Golo Conte, of course, who's one of the Chelsea absentees, of course, with almost a season-long injury. But those three, with goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel, did so much to make that fairy tale a reality in the East Midlands. Now it's East Manchester. Mahrez. And he's got Chelsea dancing to his tune again.
Like a lot of players, when they go to, like Phillips, it's taken him a time to settle in at Manchester City. It took a long time for Mahrez to settle in. Never really produced his best form until maybe the second season. Erling Haaland and playing today, probably the best passer of the ball in world football. Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. You've got on the bench as well.
By the way, apart from seeing him at the beginning, didn't we? We saw him on the bench when the teams were lining up to come out. But yeah, he's probably deserved a mention or two before he brought him into the conversation. Because he was only a substitute in the FA Cup final, the 6-0, but he came on and scored against Watford 4 years ago in May. And there's a foul by Bernardo Silva and a yellow card, and Chelsea taking the free kick quickly. Hutchinson. It's Spilicueta, but that's the sort of pass that Manchester City play very well. The Chelsea captain didn't play so well. Confirmation of Bernardo's booking.
That pass is usually from Riyad Mahrez to the on-rushing Kevin De Bruyne, who then whips it in with a bit of pace, just as Walker did for the third goal. The chains for Chelsea.
Tony Chukwuemeka. That will be the full complement. Mason Mount who shrugged off that training ground injury from midweek last week. Chukwuemeka was an early substitute against Manchester City. He actually hit the post at 0-0. Can't have a good account of himself. Bought from fellow Premier League rivals Aston Villa. He had a couple of Premier League starts. Phillips. His hometown club Leeds United had a bit of a scare today, but managed to set up a replay against Cardiff City. Here's Manchester City. With Bernardo Silva. Mahrez. It's the fluidity of positions that makes it so hard for the opposition. I think somebody's in your zone, even if you're not man-for-man marking, and then he's not there, and it's another one, and then it's another one. It wears you out mentally as well as physically. Here's Mahrez looking for more. Wonder. Marisa Balaga had a look anxiously over his right shoulder.
Well, you knew as soon as he took that step onto his left foot, he was going to try and bend it into the corner. Silva plays it to him. Just goes inside the first challenge of Gallagher. Tries to use the next defender on the side of the goalkeeper. It was a good effort from Riyad Mahrez.
Mount off. Chukwuemeka, win a European under-19 crown. Big contribution to that last year.
They've always had a good youth system, haven't they, Chelsea, over the last 15, 20 years. All those players now coming to the fore. They need to come to the fore, maybe.
Here's one of the old guard. Here's Spilicueta. His international colleague Laporte slips. Hutchinson. Whether he was actually trying to play that in or shoot, I mean, quite get close enough to the ball to get it on real contact, where his eye line and his foot were down in harmony there.
I think he was trying to shoot.
Yeah.
So space open up for him, bend it into that far corner, but as you said, wasn't close enough with his standing foot to the ball. He couldn't wrap his foot round it. Couldn't hit it with enough power either.
quite in Edison's class. Stefan Ortega. There's Zakaria. He's got a character off the field. Humphries. Playing for the back, couldn't quite find David Fofana. Koulibaly. Chelsea, you feel quite happy to keep the game slow, tempo. The clock tick on, 15 minutes plus added time to go. Quite got into the realms of the mega added time of the World Cup. So it might come in, it's certainly something that was appreciated by the supporters who got more time, watching time for their considerable outlay. There's a school of thought, Stuart, that the game should have an in-play target of an hour over 90 minutes. The ball should be in play for 60 minutes. One way to do that, of course, is have a clock that stops, as other sports do.
I noticed you changed your contract, so you were paid by the minute in the World Cup.
Paid? Labour of love, you know that. Cancelo. It's Koulibaly. Chelsea would have loved to have offered a bit more in the memory of Luca Vialli here today. A great sense of grief. Passing of the Italian so soon after the end of the game on Thursday between these two. A chance there. Suspicion of offside, but Hutchinson was allowed to go on.
They have found a bit of space down this right-hand side. As Hutchinson, we've also seen Azpilicueta make a forward run into open ground. Switch of players being useful for Chelsea from that side of the field to this.
And as it stands, it's going to be 3 games between these two clubs this season. A 1-0, which was Thursday, a 2-0, which was in November, and a 3-0 here. That's the City's favourite. Chelsea would love to get a goal, at least. But Fofana in the middle, Hutchinson, who's been lively since he was brought on. And a shot that loops up from Zakaria. Akanji. Was the one who made the block.
Yeah, good play from Hutchinson. His first touch wasn't great, that's why he had to cut back in field. He played a little 1-2, then got it wide again. Zakaria trying to bend it with the inside of his right boot into that far corner. And that will be painful for Akanji.
To a Swiss roll on the ground.
Difficult to have the right sort of body language when you're a coach, when you're 3-0 down and you know that you're not really going to get back into the game.
Yeah, you have to be seen to be encouraging the ones that are out there. And, it's been another game of change for Graham Potter. The starting lineup and the substitutions that he's used. 2 of them, Zakaria and Fofana. Conor Gallagher. Can Chelsea get a goal here? Fire up the last 15 minutes or so. Chalobah trying to come round the back.
It's always a difficult one to deal with. All he can do is try and get that back into the danger area.
It's a tribute to Luca Vialli. We weren't quite sure when we saw the shot a bit earlier.
What a player he was, what a character he was, good manager. Loved by everyone, I think.
Absolutely. Privileged to have known him. Work by Zakaria.
He's quick, he's a good athlete, Zakaria. I think he played very well against Nottingham Forest in the first half last week.
By Bernardo Silva, gone hunting the ball in Chelsea territory too much. They've worked their way into it from deeper positions.
Italian is very good, Martin, but that signs it translated win for Luca.
I'm sure Chelsea would have loved to have been able to do that.
It's great that he was part of that European Championship winning staff
For Italy, yeah.
For Italy.
Yeah. And his great friend Roberto Mancini, great friend of former Manchester City player Trevor Francis. And Trevor was playing in Italy in the 1980s. One thing that Luca Vialli would not want would be any trouble in the Chelsea end of the stadium. Frustration. I'm not sure about just the match or just the way Chelsea's season's going. 197th appearance, and I haven't seen too many times where, for a petty incident, he's reacted. It was a foul.
He's the man that's been used to winning. That's been equator over his career at Chelsea, or certainly challenging in every trophy. Not happening for Chelsea at the moment. Came on as a sub. He's done quite well since he's come on. He's on this right-hand side on 2 or 3 occasions, but certainly not been his season so far.
He's been around Chelsea, of course, for these 4 cup finals in 5 seasons, I think it is. And, 3 defeats in a row. Been tough to take. Of the winning setup in 2018 under Antonio Conte. Might have been Conte's last game in the job. Beat Manchester United with an Eden Hazard penalty. Maybe he's just feeling not just the lack of results, but as I say, that edge that Chelsea always had, even like the likes of Hazard, a wonderful, gifted player, but you knew he was a competitor as well, and they just haven't been able to really compete. Even scoring a goal is, at the moment, a very hard thing for this group of players to do. Yes, it's Manchester City again, but it's not the same Manchester City that lined up in the Premier League. But Bernardo Silva, and down goes Foden, and the referee has given another penalty to Manchester City. They've restricted their forward momentum in the second half, but they burst through then. And Azpilicueta is still burning with it, not a sense of injustice, I don't think, indignation maybe. Let's have a look at it, Stu.
Well, Bernardo Silva plays the right ball. Yeah, there is a clip. The covering defender just catches Foden. Here, misses the ball as well. Koulibaly. I don't think we're going to see the referee change his mind. He misses the ball. He had a chance to get the ball, he just missed it, and then caught Foden. Foden, had he not been knocked to the ground, would have probably passed it into the corner.
Well, I said there'd be 2 different states of mind maybe for Manchester City. There's somebody who was never thinking about just running down the clock to win 3-0. Oh, and Riyad Mahrez is going to take the penalty. I don't think Pep Guardiola, from what I understand within the City camp, will be over-thrilled with this, but with a 3-0 lead, he can afford it. You remember he's missed a couple recently. He scored 10 out of 14 from the spot for City, which means he's missed 4. Quite a high ratio. What's he going to do with this one? 6 minutes to go. Mahrez finds the back of the net. And it's Chelsea, doesn't miss against them. So a second successful penalty, this one against Koulibaly, the first against Havertz for handball. Alvarez, the first successful spot kick, that was more convincing from Riyad Mahrez.
He just hit that one with pace. Riyad Mahrez high into the roof of the net. Again, try to play a few mind games, quite down the middle, but close to it. Hit with power, hit with good height, no stopping that. Almost take a risk when you try and go into the roof of the net. You don't get underneath it too much. And a very good penalty. And a real thumping for Chelsea here.
Well, when you think you get to 2 finals of domestic cups in the same season, you know you're going to play somebody good. And Chelsea, both against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup and in the FA Cup, losing by the narrowest of margins on both occasions. But here, at the first hurdle of the domestic cups, they've met not just the same opponent, but an opponent like Manchester City. Rico Lewis comes on. One of Manchester City's young talents. Another Manchester-born lad, only 18. Been at the club since he was 8.
When he has played, he's played well.
He was part of the first set of substitutions from Guardiola at half-time at Stamford Bridge on Thursday. Here's Mahrez, who's on a hat-trick, of course. Penalties. Cancelo's going to get booked for that. Stopping a potential counter-attack. I don't think Rob Jones can be held to account too much for awarding the penalties from the Chelsea point of view.
Well, he's right to give a yellow card on that occasion, yeah, but you're absolutely right. The first one was handball. He didn't give it to start with, but having looked at the VAR, and as you said at the time, not too many of the Man City players appealed for the first penalty, did they? Only Akanji saw it.
And you, because I was watching the game go on and you were getting ready to view what Rob Jones got to see in terms of replays.
And then I think the second one, it's missed time, wrong angle of approach from Koulibaly. Because Foden didn't really try and shield the ball particularly. Koulibaly just missed it.
The previous biggest margin in an FA Cup tie between these two teams was a 5-1 for Chelsea in the 5th round in 2016. And Manuel Pellegrini was the City manager, and the rest of them had a long Champions League trip shortly after that, I think maybe to the Ukraine. And we were a bit critical on the day about the selection, and I got a very abrupt text after the game from Sam Allardyce saying you've got to understand what these the demands on these players. So put me in my place, not for the first time. I was happy to take the advice and to be a bit more sympathetic to Mr. Pellegrini next time he was involved.
You're not somebody you usually argue with, Sam Allardyce, I don't think. Come off second best.
Well, it was nice of him to make contact, to be honest with you. Maybe he's watching today from somewhere. It'd be nice to hear from you again, Sam. Hope you've done it okay for you this time. I say we, I'm not sure, Stuart, you were culpable. I think it was just me.
Yeah, whenever I make a mistake, I always blame you.
So that doesn't happen very often. Here's Marisa Balaga. He hasn't had much chance. We'll talk about the free kick, I suppose, from a long way out. The the touch on the ball, seemed to take it upwards rather than divert it from side to side. It was more awkward for the goalkeeper. It was a brilliant effort from Mahrez.
You always think that maybe a goalkeeper can take another couple of steps before he gets the dive in, but it was hit with such pace. I think he realised he had to get the dive in quite quickly. I'm sure the goalkeeping coach will be looking at it and seeing where he could have done better, but I don't think there was any chance he was going to save that. Maybe the penalty, the first penalty by Alvarez, he could have done a little bit better, having chosen the right way.
Good point. He's Hutchinson trying his luck on the left. In the 90th minute, with probably only a couple to add. Gallagher. Hall. 4 youngsters have been in from the start. See what Lewis Hall was trying to do to get Gallagher to turn onto his right foot and maybe move in with a bit more menace towards the edge of the penalty area for a shot. I think it was a measure of Potter's problems. They made a triple substitution in the second half against City on Thursday, and Conor Gallagher was the senior player of the three, with Lewis Hall and Harry Hutchinson being the other two.
I wonder if, when he looks back at the game, whether he'll question the formation that he went with. It made it very easy for Man City to keep switching the play and creating 2v1, and he made the most of it on several occasions. Riyad Mahrez has just been named as the man of the match.
That's what they call a one-horse race. But he's had problems at times not doing what Pep Guardiola wanted. I'd be interested to know about the penalty, because he missed one earlier this season in a Champions League game that they only drew. The message was, well, he's not going to take another one. Whether the rules were broken, we'll see.
Or not another important one.
Yeah, maybe. Good definition. Foden's waiting in the middle. Okay. He's not stopped running. Lewis struggling to get there. No. The team is a right back, but one of those right backs who can play in midfield, which is where he is now. Cancelo runs through to Alvarez, who bequeathed the second penalty, I've assumed, to Mahrez. The first one wasn't so good, was it? So,
we were just talking about Lewis playing at right back or in midfield. He did that brilliantly against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup game, which was an absolutely brilliant game. And when they didn't have the ball, he went to right back. When they did have the ball, he came into that central midfield area.
Well, Chelsea go out to Manchester City again in a domestic cup competition. It was 2-0 in the Carabao in November. It's 4-0 here. And in the 3 games, counting the Premier League game just 3 days ago, Riyad Mahrez has scored in all of them. He's got 2 today. Alvarez on the score sheet, on the penalty spot. Foden got a goal and won the penalty, the only goal of the second half. But problems mount for Graham Potter. Losing is one thing, losing without really competing is not what's expected of a Chelsea team. He won't expect that. I mean, they stuck at it. There are mitigating circumstances, but Manchester City swapped and chopped and changed in their lineup as well, but they were far too good, and they're through to the 4th round with 4 goals, with Mahrez the main man. City 4, Chelsea 0.
The week commencing the 23rd of January. Keep your eye on the website for all fixtures and details. As always, we really appreciate your unwavering and faithful support of the team. On behalf of all the players, the manager, all standing at Manchester City, thank you for your brilliant hourly moral support today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, City stands now open for refreshments, the line now Coach says a drink, some food, watch our match day live, post-match reaction. Live track information is exactly Martin Meta Stadiums at Big Street right now. There are also buses parked on Ashton Euro for the city centre. There is limited capacity and they will be full, so if you would like to get a bus to the city centre, please use those.